Ladies and gentlemen, my name is David Ruff, and I am head of Ruff Team Realty, and we are here to change the way that you structure your financial future. Welcome. Toronto real estate is in the news.
We want to thank everybody for supporting the channel. We really appreciate all your time. If you do have time and you like our content, please remember to follow, share.
We are starting a new podcast called The Science of Real Estate.
Like and follow for more. This is a historic day, okay? August 15th, 1971. We are now at the 50-year anniversary, and that is what we're going to be covering today. Today is the 50th anniversary of the unhinging of the gold standard. A lot of people, when they hear this, first of all, they'll say, what on earth is that? Second of all, they're going to say, why on earth should it impact me at all? Why should I care? My name is David Ruff, and I'm here to help you understand the economies of the world and how you can make moves in your daily lives to help see you better off in the future, knowing what the governments are doing, but what they're not telling you. Today, 50-year anniversary, 1971, good old Richard Nixon. He was the guy that took us off that standard. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Today's the 50-year anniversary. It's a huge, huge day. So this is the beginning of the end. 1971 was the beginning of the end as we watch a world superpower, which is the United States of America, and the reserve currency of the world break apart. So a lot of people will say, sure, the United States of America, that's not where I live, but that is not the point. The point is that the reserve currency of the world is the United States dollar, and it's the United States dollar that is crumbling before our very eyes. So that's the most important part. And we are watching this reserve currency break apart in the world. So this has huge implications for the world, and almost every country is going to be affected by this. Massively, massively important for you to understand what is happening. So what is the gold standard? Let's go back and talk about that for a brief moment. Why does this matter to us? How does this affect you? And why should you care about it? All of these questions you should be asking every single day in your daily life. How do I make these events work for me? So in the later 1800s, people wanted a more stable form of currency. So instead of carrying around, those old leather bags with gold coins, when you would see movies, Robin Hood or something, they're very heavy for you to carry around. It wasn't always very efficient to carry around a bag of gold. It was very heavy. So they wanted to start carrying around paper money. So this is basically a promissory note that could be exchanged for gold. So technically, if you had a bill, say that said $20 or 20 pounds or whatever it would be, you'd then be able to go to the bank and exchange that note, that piece of paper, for an actual piece of gold. That's how the gold standard would work. So let's take an example of this. If you had $1 million of gold, then the governments are allowed to print $1 million in paper money issued for it. So at any time, everybody technically could bring their note into the bank, hand it in, and expect a piece of gold in return. So this is something where we have collateral. So we have some collateral that we can exchange our paper money for. And this is what held the banks in check and the central banks in check. They weren't allowed to print unlimited amounts of money. So remember this. This is what they used to keep the banks and the central banks in check, to make sure that their $1 million of gold would only ever have $1 million of paper money issued against it. Now, of course, there's some minor variances, but we don't have to get into the little details. Now, think of the world's oldest form of banking, the pawn shop. The pawn shop always operated that you would have to bring them some collateral, and in exchange for the collateral, they're going to give you some money. Very, very easy to understand. I bring you something of value, they'll give me some money for it. But here is where the break happened. The great part of the gold standard is that you were not able to print as much money as you want. You are constrained by how much gold that you have in your vaults. You did not have the ability to print unlimited amounts of money to the tune of trillions of dollars and dilute the value of the money, which is only inflation, which is called theft. It's an insidious theft on the public. Terrible. So let's go to history. Why do we not have the gold standard right now? Well, we know that there was terrible world wars. My grandfather fought in the World War. A lot of people died. And what did they do as they were coming out of the World War? They had all of these problems. The countries were falling apart. Their countries were going bankrupt. How on earth were they going to resettle the world and figure out how the banking system should work for all of humanity? So the countries were going bankrupt. The USA had a lot of Europe's gold at that time, and they decided to all get together in this little place in New Hampshire called Bretton Woods. And this is where they were going to discuss the future of the world. How important was that, right? All coming from one hotel. Here they are all sitting around the big conference room. This is a picture of New Hampshire, and they still have some big signs that you can go and look at right now. Huge world-changing events happened at this hotel. So this is what was decided upon. In the past, remember we said that the countries were only able to issue dollars or whatever it's going to be, yen, euro, doesn't matter, based on how much that individual country had in gold. So before you would have some yen backed up by gold, America backed up by gold, Canada backed up by gold, lira, pound, doesn't matter, all backed up by gold. So this is the new system. Since there wasn't enough gold to go around, all the other currencies, so they're paper, backed up by nothing. So all the other currencies that were backed up by nothing would be backed up against the US dollar, the reserve currency of the world, which would then be backed up on gold. So instead of every single country holding their own stash of gold, all countries could get rid of it, all base it on a US dollar, and the US dollar would be based on gold. So the United States said, trust us. We have enough gold for all of you. You have nothing to worry about. And that's how it kind of kicked off after the Second World Wars. This is how we kind of got the world back on track. But from then on, because the US dollar is now the reserve currency, all of the things like oil and so forth is all going to always be based on a US dollar. And the US can never run out of money because they can print as much as they want. But the other countries, they can get diluted in value based on whatever the US does on their dollar. So this is why this is so important. So at the Bretton Woods Convention, this is where it was decided the USA would become the world currency, and all currencies would be based on their currency, the US dollar. And all of their paper would be based on US paper, which is based on gold. So all the countries would have to trust the USA not to dilute their dollars. Isn't that crazy? So trust based on gold. That's what the Bretton Woods example was. But in 1971, August 15th, the 50-year anniversary today of what we're talking about, this is when Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard. So even leading up to 1971, the governments were printing money at unprecedented rates and diluting that value. It was just Richard Nixon that finally put that nail in the coffin and said, forget it, we're not doing it anymore. We're just going to go crazy. So that's when they officially broke the gold standard, and they allowed them to print as much money as they want without any checks and balances, which is crazy. So this is when the world kind of went right off the rocker. They started printing money for all their political objectives and for whatever reasons, and the money supply just kept on climbing and climbing. So what actually happens? Does that affect you? Does it affect me? Well, what happens? This is what happens. What are the repercussions of printing so much money? They also call that devaluing. They call it inflation. They can call it helicopter money. There's a lot of different terms. But what happens when we print so much money? My grandfather made $5 a week, $1 a day. That's all he made. When I started working, I made $5 an hour. But nowadays, you can't even buy a cup of coffee at Starbucks for $5 an hour. For $5. Things are very, very expensive. So gold cannot be produced out of thin air. That is why it is good collateral. In almost all countries, they will accept some form or rather of gold. So maybe we're going to have to go back to something like that again. Go back to gold standard so we cannot print money. Or we're going to have to get on something like Bitcoin, some other type of commodity. Bitcoin is capped at 21 million units. So the system will not allow us to make more and more and more Bitcoin. So in that case, it's something that cannot be devalued away. The governments cannot come in and create more of it. And maybe we'll have to go back to something like that. Of course, yes, some people say we can still find gold as we mine it, but that is only going to be a very small amount when we're talking about world supply. It's not going to dilute it at the rate that we are doing when we're doing rampant money printing. Here is the main point. We need a new trust because the trust that we have is broken and it's on its last legs. This cannot survive. We cannot print money unprecedented without massive repercussions to the economy. And what is going to happen, you're going to see massive inflation. If anyone is paying attention to anything, you've seen home prices, depending where you live, up 20, 30, 40% in 1 year. Food prices have gone through the roof. Oil and gas has gone up. All materials, commodities have gone up. Famously, wood, lumber, copper, everything is up. That is inflation, my friends. And this is coming a lot stronger. This is not over. So what can you do about it? Guys, this money is worthless. Money, all this is a piece of paper. In some cases, I'm in Canada, they're made out of plastic, but money is worthless. It's actually worthless. If you took a piece of paper that your kid could draw on, that piece of paper is worthless. I mean, sentimentally, yeah, it's worth something, but I mean, the paper is worthless. Paper money is worthless. It's not worth anything. The only reason it's worth something is because I trust that it's worth something, you trust that it's worth something, and maybe we can keep going. That's the only reason. There's no intrinsic value to money. There's no intrinsic value to that little piece of paper. So it's something that we all agree on is worth something, but it is not worth something. Does that make any sense? So why are we working and saving for something that is worthless? Why are you going to go to work all of your hours and work for a piece of paper that's not worth anything? What you need to be working for are some type of tangible skills or assets. So how do we do that? We can invest in things that hold value. And typically speaking, things like gold and silver are things that hold value. Some cryptos, notice I say some, there's thousands of types of crypto that's out there, but generally speaking, the big ones, if you stick with the big ones, you're gonna do a lot better off. Commodities are always in demand. And as the world population goes up, those demand on those limited supply resources of commodities are gonna continue to go up as well. And of course, real estate. Real estate is the most tax-favored asset class in the world. And this is why real estate is always the cornerstone of everybody's portfolio. You need in real estate, I need in real estate, and everybody does. So you need to get real estate ahead of these upcoming historical migrational shifts. These shifts are happening right before our eyes. Number one, climate change is massive. We're talking about huge swaths of the country or of the planet that will no longer be habitable for humans. So as they move, where are they going to be going to? They're going to be heading toward the poles where it is cooler. Second big movement that we're going to notice is the coronavirus. A lot of countries, including my own, are planning on bringing millions of people to the country to try to counterbalance all the effects of COVID. This is going to have massive societal impacts on a lot of countries. As we do that, you're talking about millions of people coming in who need houses, and we are already sitting at historic lows for homes. We've seen the prices skyrocket in the past year because demand is there, but there are no homes to buy. Imagine dropping millions more people in the middle of that mix. The demand is going to continue to go up. So you want to be ahead of these migrational shifts. So the biggest ones are going to be the coronavirus and climate change. This is going to continue to go up. So you need to exchange your useless pieces of paper, your useless cash, for a hard asset. And those hard assets have to make you money. You need to find ways to make money with your money. Make your money work as hard as you do, because I know you work really hard. So the cornerstone of any investment portfolio should be real estate, because it is the most tax-favored asset class in the world, period, bar none. And so real estate is so important for you to get into, and that's why 90% of all millionaires on earth make their money through real estate. And we can always reach out to us at any time. These are our contact informations. And I want you to succeed. The world today is in a mess, but you don't have to be. And your finances and your family don't have to be in a mess. There are ways for you to make better decisions. I'm here for your health, wealth, and happiness. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. Let me know. If you enjoyed this information, please subscribe. And if you didn't, I'd like to know about it too. And maybe we could discuss it on a future video. If you have any other questions on the rest of your stuff, you can reach out to us at contact@roughteamrealty.com, and we'll be happy to help you on the next video.